Welcome to It Starts With Courage podcast with Kat and Jen. What is it? It's everything. Everything you want in life starts with courage.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, you're making it weird.
What an eventful week.
How was your week?
It's been pretty good. Obviously, still doing Instagram Live. So, you know,
Wait, you're on Instagram?
So guys, if you don't follow me, Insecure Fitness, we work on self-love, self-esteem, everything you know your worth. Actually, you know what? Speaking of know your worth, I had this, I don't even know what to call it.
Epiphany?
It was a moment, like, you know, with Instagram, I'm kind of on Instagram, but as I always say to people, I'm just very regular. I don't try and do anything extra that's sort of like for Instagram or like influencer life, because really, I really don't have time for a life. So when I'm on Instagram, it's literally just when I'm on Instagram, and I'm still a kind of like one-person team when it comes to liaising with companies and businesses, and, you know, and slowly I'm trying to build my squad. But still, like, a lot of it involves, like, you know, trusting people to do things for you or negotiate for you in the right way. Scary stuff for me. Clearly, I don't trust easily. Not that people are not trustworthy. Issues. I'm working through it, guys. But basically, so I had, and as I've had, like, you know, a couple of these brand deals that pop up here and there. And a few times I've been asked by people, you know, are like, would like to do this campaign, blah, 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 blah. What do you charge, or what's your cost? And then sometimes you get companies who will be like, oh, okay, hey, we would like to do such and such. And this is what we want to pay. This is what we want to give. And I suppose, you know, sometimes today I want to talk about self-worth. Why? Because I think that sometimes we undervalue ourselves, or we really don't see how powerful we are. We don't know our own worth, so we expect less from people. And I quickly realized over the last couple of weeks that if you're not careful, or if you're unaware of your self-worth, you will literally accept anything from anybody. And I don't mean just monetarily, I mean just in terms of how people treat you. You may be just that nice person. And I've found this on Instagram as well, where people feel like they can say just anything to you. And because you are a nice person, you just swallow it. And while, you know, going back and forth with these companies, for the first time, I stood up for myself. I stood up for myself because I had to analyze what I was getting in return, like have a look at what I was getting in return for what these people will benefit from me. And that was the first time that I really had to take into account everything that my platform is, what it's built, and I guess what it can do for other brands and other businesses. And I was proud of myself in that moment. Like, I actually said, this is what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And that was a first for me. So, you know, today I thought maybe we could go over a little bit about self-worth and self-esteem, because I really think that these two go hand in hand. And self-esteem being what we think, feel, and believe about ourselves. You know, sometimes some people have low self-esteem, like you feel great about yourself. Some people have low self-esteem. And self-worth is the recognition, right? Recognition that you are valuable and you are worth, whether it's love or you're just worth and deserving of whatever price you put on it. So, enough of that jibber jabber. Jen, would you say you're somebody who's always had self-worth? And if not, when is that moment that you're like, aha?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think that for the most part, I've always had like a positive self-talk to myself. Like when I go and I evaluate like other people, how they talk to themselves and be like, oh, you're so stupid, or why'd you do that? Or like, can't believe you messed that up. Like, I don't really have that. So in terms of like positivity and things like that, I feel like I've been pretty positive most of my life. But I think we all compare ourselves to others. And I can remember like even playing college soccer and being in the locker room and other girls walking around and they have six packs and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm fat.
Yeah.
And I was not fat.
Right.
But, you know, it's just easy to compare yourself to others and easy to kind of to get down on yourself. So I think like we have to look internally at ourselves and just be happy with where we're at. And just like we always talk about, like, doing hard things gives us confidence to do harder things. I think in self-worth and in like, you know, being ourself and getting through different situations and positive self-talk, and then you stand up for yourself a little bit to somebody, or like you mentioned before, instead of just swallowing it, you say something back and you get a little bit of confidence in yourself. It grows and grows and grows. And then that's when you really know your worth. Over time, it's kind of like being a real estate agent. When you first get started, you know, we control what we charge people for commissions and things like that. So like, I know a ton of like new agents or other agents that we call them discount brokers. They charge very little for their services.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if it was an easy transaction, you're paying me for all the experience I have, because things pop up.
Right.
So I've been selling homes for 15 years and I'm selling, you know, 50 to 100 homes a year. That's a lot of transactions where things come up that could derail the sale. So, you know, so when you have me in your corner, I know the contract. I know the situation. I know how to get us to the closing table. And so I have that confidence and that self-belief. And that helps me make going into a listing presentation and saying like, this is what I'm going to charge. I'm worth this amount. Right. And so I think it just comes down to like having belief in yourself. And I think we're going to talk about that today. Like,
so basically,
how do you get that?
Right. What I'm getting from you is, as you said, you have a lot of positive self-talk. So you're somebody who's clearly always had high self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
So you've been able to translate that into knowing your worth. And the second thing I got from Jen is, we can't get her services at a discount guide. You have to pay full price.
I'm worth it.
So, and I guess I was going to ask you next, you know, how does someone find self-worth? But I think you've already answered that in saying, you know, having those positive self-talk about yourself. And I think which in turn breeds a high self-esteem. And thinking about it, I have quite a few little nieces. And two of them, one I can see is not struggles with self-esteem, but you can see that her self-esteem is validated by others, what others think, say. And so in just watching behavior, I feel like she can be easily influenced, not because not that I'm saying she doesn't know her worth, but so far it's at a stage where how she feels about herself is heavily influenced by
how others
feel, see, say about her. Whereas the other one, on the other hand, really does not care whether you like it or not, in a positive way. I mean, if something is right, she will say, this is right. If it's wrong, she will say, this is wrong. Obviously, people as young girls do react differently towards it. Like, you get the ones that make fun and the ones that, but what I see is it's that reinforcement at home that builds self-esteem in these little girls, and especially her, that allows her to stand confident in what she's saying to people about any given situation.
I feel like that's, as an adult, that's the same thing. And people are probably not going to like this comment, but as an adult, I see many, especially women, with fake everything.
Yeah. Ooh.
And that is like, you're trying to be somebody that you think the world wants you to be. And those people are insecure. Like they're posting all the pictures and the selfies, but that's really, and you think, oh my God, they're so secure in themselves. They're posting all these selfies. That's really a reflection of insecurity. The people that are very secure in themselves, they don't have to, like what you're talking about, they don't have to have the affirmation from other people
to say,
to believe that they're doing the right thing or they're confident in themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of us definitely have a certain amount of insecurities in all of us that manifest in different ways, right?
100%,
So
100%.
whether we're that person, as you said, that may go and do things to change, whether it's additions, plastic surgery, or we're that person like me who will go and exercise the heck out of every day just to feel better. I personally think that neither one is wrong for this individual who may feel insecure and may decide to go and get work or decide to, exercise or decide to do whatever it is. Because I think that if that's something that's going to boost your self-esteem and in turn help you recognize your self-worth, whether it's by realizing that, oh, maybe I actually didn't need this. Because sometimes if the mind is not right, it doesn't matter what other actions we take. I think it's a mental process to get to that self-worth. Sometimes you do have to go through a trial and error process where you try different things. Maybe this will make me feel better. Maybe this will make me feel better. It doesn't mean that it will make you necessarily feel better, but it may help you understand your self-worth, right?
I think it's the way, it's the thought process behind what you're doing. If you're doing it because you want it and that makes you feel better. It's just like the plastic surgery that I have for my Bell's palsy. It's like so many people have told me, I don't even notice that. Like you're crazy to like go through all of this. But like for me, it's so notable. It's so noticeable in every picture when I'm talking to people. Like I notice it. So,
and that's insecurities. They're personal.
It's personal insecurities, and I'm doing that for me. Yeah, I'm not doing that for anybody else. And so, like to your point, if you're getting work done, if you're changing things about yourself, that doesn't mean that's not a bad thing,
right?
But it is a bad thing if you're doing it just to get the acceptance from other people. If you're doing it to make yourself happy and accept yourself and better yourself in your own mind to give you more self-confidence, that's one thing. But like if you're just doing it so others accept you, that's what I'm talking about. It's a little bit of a difference. Do you see the difference?
I see what you're saying, and I think this goes leads in nicely into what I wanted to also, discuss today, which is what are ways for a person to develop self-worth. And I managed to come up with a couple of points that I thought we could maybe discuss.
Okay.
And these should be steps that you can consider when it comes to building and developing that self-worth. So just like we were talking about, the number one would be recognize what does not determine self-worth. So I would say things like social media shouldn't determine your self-worth. This is when we compare ourselves to, Sally next door. What does she have? What does she look like? What is she wearing? What is she eating? Because as we all know at this point, social media is just that, social media. all you see are highlight reels of people's lives. You only see the best parts. You don't see what's really going on, and as the saying goes, the grass on the other side isn't always greener. It's only green where you water it.
You finally got one of those sayings right.
What other things do you think do not determine self-worth?
I think just your success in things. Like, I know a ton of athletes who spent their whole life like getting to become the best that they could be in their sport, and then they finally get to where their sport is, they've topped out, they've retired, and then it's like they were always just known for being the best at that.
Right.
And then like their whole identity was that. And then it's like, okay, well now what are people going to like me for? Mm-hmm. Like if I'm not the best this or the best that, like, so I think like your job, how much money you have, if you've trained to be elite in any kind of activity, I mean, those are not, like I always say at the end of the day, when I'm dying, retired and dying, they're not going to be like, well, you sold so many houses in this year or that year. So like that, it doesn't matter. Like it seems like it matters in the moment when we're competitive and we're chasing our goals and our accomplishments. But at the end of the day, none of that really matters.
And it really doesn't. That's not what determines self-worth. I think another way to help develop and build that self-worth is if you're somebody who has negative self-talk. You described yourself as somebody who has positive self-talk. You've always told yourself positive things. So if you're that person who criticizes yourself or are too harsh on yourself, I challenge you to challenge that inner voice and ask yourself, does it have a basis? Is what I'm thinking, this negativity, does it have a basis? When it comes to negotiating salaries, anything, why do you think that you should get less? What are the reasons that you should get more? Don't think about the negative stuff. Do you agree, Jen?
Yeah, I think everything in your life and your self-worth starts with your thoughts.
Yes.
And it's what you put out into the universe. And so if you're constantly saying, oh, I suck at this, or I'm not any good at that, like, it becomes a negativity. Like some people, there's a quote out there, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change.
Yes.
And so instead of like, I don't know, my daughter, she called herself one time a math wizard. And we were talking about math, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm the math wizard. And I just love that because she was embracing a skill she had in math. And I love that she just like had so much confidence in that. And like, so there's some things in life that when we don't have confidence, we look at it like, I don't like that, or I'm not good at that. But if we change the way that we're looking at that, instead of saying, I'm not good at that, it was like, I am getting better at this. Like, I want to be the best at this. And then you change the way you look at it.
Right.
That whole situation ends up changing. So your thoughts and what you tell yourself is the most important conversations you're going to have.
I agree. And I think along with that, number 3 is an increase in self-understanding. And I think this is where most of us probably fall short. And that is, if somebody asked you, who are you? Do you know who you are and who you are not? Are you that somebody that can answer that? How am I? How am I in the world? Do you understand who Jen is? Do I understand who Catherine is? I think this is very important when it comes to determining self-worth, understanding how others speak about you, and certain things that define you. When it then comes time where you have to, I can't say be forceful about self-worth, but when it comes to those times where you may or may not question whether or not you're deserving of somebody. I think understanding yourself, what you want, is a critical factor in that. Do you feel like you understand who you are? Have you always understood who you are? Or I personally think it's a process to understand who you are. As we change, life has many chapters, and I think who we are changes to a certain degree.
Yeah, we're not the same person at 15, at 20, at 30, at 40, at 70. We're not the same person throughout. Mm-hmm. I mean, we learn from our experiences and we gain knowledge and self-worth through that. So I definitely think that we evolve and we have to keep learning about ourselves.
I like that. I like that. Like, Jen has a way with words, guys. Like, sometimes I could just listen to her speak all the time because I just feel like, yes, that's me.
Oh, I love that.
But so now we're going to move on to number 4. So first we had recognizing what does not determine self-worth, and then challenging that inner voice that may want to criticize, and thirdly, increasing self-understanding. Now, number 4, I think, would be boosting your self-acceptance. Now that you understand who you are, what you want, I think self-acceptance in the sense that you may not be perfect at everything. It's not everything that you're capable of in life. You may not be that math wizard like Bailey. And I think based on your life experiences, any traumas that you've been through that may have made you who you are today, I think it's important to forgive yourself for certain life experiences, for those things that you aren't able to do, that you struggle with, your fears or areas in your life that you feel that you may have let yourself down. You need to be able to accept the good and the bad in order to understand and know that you are still worth it. You are still worthy of love, worthy of that salary that we're going for, guys. Do you think you've done that, Jen?
Well, I mean, I think everybody has areas in their life that they have insecurities about, or they have let themselves down in certain areas. I mean, we can all look deep down inside and say, like, I'm not happy with this, or I'm not happy with that. But I feel like what we're talking about is just being able to identify those and then do something about those. Mm-hmm. And once we start tackling those areas of our life, like, your life is going to elevate. Typically, yes. Like, I see that people have 3 or 4 good areas in their life where they've got everything going great, mm-hmm. and then they've got like one area that's just kicking their ass. Yeah. Like, they're struggling in that. And so, and it's
mine's paperwork.
It's just easy to let that happen. It's easy to just keep pushing the good things because you're being successful in that, and yes. You're like being you're climbing the mountain, you're getting to the top, you're being uber successful, and you're seeing results there. Right. But for me, it's like, I have a great family, I have a great business, finances are fine, like we're doing well in so many different areas, but it's like I keep struggling over this, like, health and exercise. Right. And so, like, I keep doing this, like, challenges and getting on track for a few months and then just falling off. And then, like, but I know that it's something that is super important. And if I get that where it needs to be, it will have a positive effect in all of those areas of life, even the areas that you're already doing well in. So, I mean, I would just say to our listeners is just, like, evaluate yourself. Like, you're doing great in some areas. What's that one thing in your life that you can honestly look at and say, look, I'm struggling in this area, mm-hmm. and you can start having positive self-conversations about that. Like, you can accept that you're struggling in that area and then create some kind of plan to get better in those areas.
Right. There's a saying that says, sometimes too many of us overvalue what we are not, that we undervalue what we are. So when you focus on those areas, as you said, you can end up losing sight of your value because you're so focused on the negative. And the last 2 points, which I really think are super powerful and really just sort of incorporate the last 4 points that we talked about, is you want to be able to recognize your self-worth by understanding, accepting, and moving. So that is, you understand what does not bring self-worth or what self-worth isn't. Accepting the things that you can or cannot change. Forgiving yourself, as we spoke about, for those things that you can't achieve, that you're fearful of. And also being able to move forward, just keep going. Taking responsibility for yourself. Self-worth is just that, self-worth. It's not about other people. It's creating self-esteem that's super high, because having low self-esteem, as they say, is like driving around in a car with the handbrake on. You're constantly holding yourself back and not going to your full potential of who you are and what you're worth. And until you value yourself, your time won't be valuable.
That's money right there.
Cha-ching!
I think we just wrap this up with saying that believe in yourself, talk to yourself in a positive way.
Yes.
Identify what you're doing great and gain some confidence from that. And then identify your weak areas and start looking at those things a little differently, and have the courage to go after those things and grow and become better at the things that you're weak in. Know your worth. Don't let anybody push you around. Don't let anybody undervalue you in friendships, in business, in negotiations. Just like, don't get your value from other people. I think that's one of the huge things that we talked about today.
Right.
Just believe in yourself and believe that you're good enough for whatever you want to be in life.
Right. And if you don't spend time to figure out what your self-worth is, you can spend the rest of your life wanting to be like somebody else.
That is amazing. Thanks for listening to this episode of It Starts With Courage podcast with Kat and Jen. If you like this episode of the podcast, visit our website, iswcpodcast.com, for show notes and other cool things.